In this video, I'm just going to give you a basic overview of commercial photography. So there's lots of reasons to take photos, right? In this class so far, we've been talking mostly about kind of art photography, photographs you take because they're really beautiful or because they mean something to you or you're trying to communicate an idea. And the destination would be on someone's wall or in a gallery in a museum, something like that. But there's also commercial photography. And in commercial photography, you're working for a client. So someone is paying you to take photographs for them. So it might be something like real estate. You might be working for a magazine, National Geographic, or something, taking pictures of wildlife. Someone might hire you to shoot their wedding, something like that. So your photographs would show up in magazines or ads, catalogs, on packaging, all those different kinds of places, websites. Sometimes commercial photographers work just completely by themselves. Sometimes they work with rather a large team. A fashion photographer works with the model and the makeup person and the hair person and the location scout and the maybe a representative from the fashion house where they got the clothes, and maybe someone from the magazine and an art director and all kinds of people. So there's different ways that people work in terms of commercial photography. For this unit, we're just going to talk about 7 different kinds of commercial photos, but there are tons more out there. There's even forensic photographers who take photographs at crime scenes. But the 7 that we're going to talk about are sports, wildlife, food, product, wedding or event, fashion photographers, and children's lifestyle and portrait photographers. So, if we look at sports photography, I don't actually want to go into too much detail because, along with your shooting assignment, you have a little research assignment. You'll pick 2 of these fields and do some research on them. It's on the computer in the assignment section in the module, and it'll tell you what to do. But you'll be learning a lot more in depth about 2 of these fields, but I'm just going to give you the basics. So in sports photography, it's really important to capture really interesting, important moments in the game. They generally use fast shutter speed to do that. And yeah, anyway. And then there's wildlife photography. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail because you'll be doing some research. Wildlife photography is actually very similar to sports photography in terms of the kinds of lenses you may use or the kinds of shutter speed aperture settings you may use. And it's about kind of the interactions between animals and their environment, animals and other animals, whether it's of the same species or different species, um, prey and predator. This is actually, from what I've heard, photoshopped, but still pretty good photo. Then there's food photography. So there's people who wake up every day, go to work, and what do? They take pictures of food. And I know it looks delicious, but you wouldn't necessarily want to eat this food because they actually spend quite a long time setting it up, and they may put different kinds of substances in it to make it glossy or shiny. Again, if you choose this, you'll be doing some research on that. But if you look at all these images, you can see that they have certain things in common in terms of their lighting, in terms of the distance, in terms of their angle, in terms of their aperture, and that kind of thing. That even makes tofu look good. There's even people that work with food photographers that are food stylists, and it's their job to set up the food and work with the photographer. So you can do that as a living. Wake up every day, go to work, and be a food stylist. Then we have product photography. So these are the images that might be on packages or in ads, on a billboard or in a magazine, online, something like that. And it's all about making the product look as perfect and interesting as possible. Um, you have to be careful with certain surfaces in terms of reflections and stuff. So you might use equipment like this. I'm not going to talk about what it is in case this is what you're researching. But you can even do DIY versions of that specific kind of equipment. This is just done with a cardboard box. And again, shooting products, making them look clean and pristine and perfect and interesting so that we want to buy them. Then we have wedding and events. So if you're a wedding photographer, you kind of have to be like 5 different kind of photographers at once because you work kind of like a photojournalist where you're shooting what's happening. You also work like a portrait photographer where you're setting things up. You're shooting details like a product photographer. Again, here's some more portraits. Uh, Here's some more of the different kinds of images that might be taken by a wedding photographer. Getting ready, all the groomsmen together. Again, a lot of different kinds of photography skills needed um, to be a wedding photographer. Those important moments. And then also action photos. And then there's fashion photography. So, again, as I mentioned before, you might work with a whole team of people, and it's really about working with the model and getting the model to make the clothes look as good as possible and to get a certain mood or emotion across, get kind of a feeling. Sometimes the pictures are taken outdoors or in a location, sometimes indoors, and sometimes in a studio just with a plain backdrop. So you have to think about what works best for what you're trying to get across. And then here's some children's portraits. So working with little kids, whether it's in a studio or outdoors, getting good lighting. We learned about some of that during the portrait assignment. Working with them kind of like in fashion photography in terms of they are your models. If it's more of the portrait, giving them directions of what to do. There's certain things that you do with newborn babies, even a certain period of time in which it's best to shoot them. And then there's children's lifestyle photography, which is trying to take pictures of kids doing kid things. Now, you may set up a situation, but still, it's supposed to be, capturing what childhood is. So that's just some very basic information of some different kinds of photography. Again, you are going to research 2 of them for a different assignment. And then for your shooting assignment for this class, you'll shoot 2 images. So they could be 2 children's lifestyle images. They should be different from each other. Or you might shoot like one wildlife photo and one children's photo or a fashion photo and a sports photo or whatever combination you want from those 7 things. I just need 2 photos total. If you need any help, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing your photographs.